Stop scrolling, right now. Because what is about to be said in the next few moments was not written for a crowd. It was written for you. You are tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. Not the kind of tired that a weekend can heal. You are soul tired. You are the kind of tired that smiles at people while something inside of you is quietly whispering, "How much longer can I do this?" You have been praying the same prayer for so long that you have started to wonder if the ceiling is made of iron. You have been faithful when no one was clapping. You have held on when letting go would have been easier, cheaper, and far more comfortable. And here is the surprising thing, chosen one. The reason your life feels the hardest it has ever felt right now is not because you are failing. It is because you are finishing. I am Archangel Michael, and I have been sent to speak to you directly, in this hour, at this exact moment, because you are standing inside your final test before the breakthrough. Not one of many tests. The final one. The last checkpoint before the door that has been locked for years finally swings open. And I have come to tell you what most people never get told. Many people quit here, right here. Not at the beginning, at the end. They walk away from the mountain 3 steps from the summit because the last 3 steps were steeper than all the ones before. That will not be your story. In this message, you are going to learn exactly what this final test is, why it is designed the way it is, the 3 specific traps set to make you fail it in the last hour, what happened to the ones in Scripture who nearly quit right before their miracle, and precisely what you must do, starting today, to pass, to cross over, and to receive what has already been prepared with your name written on it. Do not skip this. Do not play this in the background while your mind is somewhere else. What is coming in the next portion of this message is the reason heaven arranged for you to find this today. Before we go one step further, I want you to do something, and I want you to understand why. Comment the number 777 below right now. 7 is the number of completion, and you are hearing this at the completion point of a long, long season. When you type 777, you are not typing a number. You are making a declaration, in writing, in the physical realm, that you refuse to quit before the finish line. And heaven records agreements. So do it now, before the enemy of your peace distracts you with something urgent that is not important. Type 777 and let it be your signature on the last page of this chapter. Now let me tell you what is really happening to you. There was a people once who were slaves. Generation after generation, they made bricks with their hands bleeding under a sun that showed no mercy, for masters who saw them as property. They cried out. They groaned. They prayed prayers that sounded like the ones you have prayed at 2 in the morning with your face pressed into a pillow so no one would hear. And God heard them. He split a sea for them. He drowned an empire behind them. He fed them with bread that fell out of the sky and water that came out of a rock. He walked in front of them as a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, which means they were never, not for 1 hour, without visible evidence that they were being led. And still, that journey should have taken 11 days. It took 40 years. Now listen very carefully, because this is the hinge on which your entire understanding must turn. The delay was not because God could not find the way. The delay was not because the promised land was not ready. The land was ready the whole time. The milk was flowing. The honey was dripping. The vineyards they did not plant were already bearing fruit. The houses they did not build were already standing. The land was ready. They were not, because a slave mentality cannot govern a promised land. You cannot put a person who still thinks like a victim in charge of a vineyard. You cannot hand a kingdom to someone who still panics every time the pantry looks empty. The wilderness was not punishment. The wilderness was formation. The wilderness was God taking Egypt out of a people he had already taken out of Egypt. Chosen one, that is what these last few years have been for you. You thought you were being ignored. You were being built. You thought you were being punished. You were being prepared. You thought God had forgotten your name. He was writing it on something bigger than the thing you were begging him for. And now you are at the Jordan. Now you are at the edge. Now you are so close that the enemy of your destiny is no longer trying to slow you down. He is trying to make you turn around, because a delayed person still arrives. A person who quits does not. Let me say something to you that may sting before it heals. The hardest part of any journey is never the beginning. At the beginning you have adrenaline. At the beginning you have hope that has never been disappointed. At the beginning you have people cheering, and the vision is fresh, and the wound has not yet formed. The hardest part is the part right before the arrival. When your resources are lowest, your patience is thinnest. Your faith has been stretched into a shape you do not recognize, and there is still no visible evidence. That is where you are. And I want you to hear this from heaven, and not from a motivational poster. You are not behind. You are at the last gate. Now, if this is speaking to something you have not been able to explain, that strange feeling you have had lately, that something is shifting, that heavy pressure combined with a quiet hope you cannot justify, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe right now, because these messages find the people who need them at the exact hour they need them, and I do not want you to miss the next one. Turn on the bell. Some of what is coming will land on the very day your circumstance turns. Now let us talk about the test itself, because a test you do not understand is a test you are far more likely to fail. Every final examination in the kingdom of heaven measures the same thing. Not your talent, not your knowledge, not your religious performance, your character under pressure. Anyone can be honest when honesty costs nothing. Anyone can be kind when they are rested and full. Anyone can have faith when the bank account is healthy and the diagnosis was clear and everybody loves them. The exam is administered when the cost is real. And so, chosen one, in this final season before your breakthrough, there are 3 specific examinations being administered to you. Most people fail at least one. You are going to recognize all 3, and you are going to pass all 3, because you are being warned in advance. And a warned soldier is a dangerous soldier. The first test is the test of scarcity, when lack tempts you to compromise. This is the test that comes to your hands and your wallet. Money is tight, tighter than you have told anybody. The numbers do not work. You have done the math 4 times, and it does not matter how you arrange it. There is more month than there is money. And in that pressure, an option appears. It always appears. It is never presented as evil. That is the entire trick. It is presented as reasonable. It is presented as practical. It is presented as just this once. An opportunity arrives that requires you to bend one small principle. A relationship offers to solve your problem, but you would have to look away from something you know is wrong. A door opens, and the door is real, and the money is real, and all it costs is a little piece of your integrity. A piece so small that nobody would ever notice it missing. Nobody but heaven. Hear me. Scarcity is not the test. Scarcity is the exam room. The test is what you are willing to trade to escape it. Because here is what you must understand about the thing you have been praying for. It is not a prize, it is a responsibility. What God is preparing to release to you is not just money, or a position, or a platform, or a relationship. It is stewardship. And He will not hand a stewardship to someone who has just demonstrated that they will sell their principles at the first sign of hunger. Not because He is cruel, because He is kind. Because giving you that thing before you can carry it would destroy you. And He loves you far too much to answer a prayer in a way that ruins you. Think of Joseph, sold by his own brothers, dragged into a foreign country, made a slave, and then, after finally clawing his way to the top of Potiphar's house, offered a shortcut. A powerful woman with the ability to elevate him or destroy him made him an offer, day after day after day. And he had every excuse a man could have. He had been abandoned. He had been betrayed. He was far from home, far from anyone who knew his name, and God had been silent for years. Who would even know? He ran, and running cost him. Running put him in a prison cell, and he stayed in that cell for years. And the man who promised to remember him forgot him for 2 more years on top of that. But listen to me. The character that refused the compromise in Potiphar's house is the same character that could be trusted with the granaries of an entire empire during a global famine. God was not withholding the palace. God was making a man who would not steal from it. Chosen one, the compromise being offered to you right now is not your rescue. It is your test. And the crazy thing, the thing that makes people weep when they finally see it in hindsight, is how close the real provision usually is. Often the compromise appears within days of the breakthrough. Days. Because the enemy can read a calendar too, and he knows that if he can get you to grab the counterfeit, you will be disqualified from carrying the original. So when the shortcut appears, I want you to say out loud, I have waited this long. I am not selling it now. The second test is the test of betrayal. When wounding tempts you to become bitter, this one is heavier than the first, because money can be replaced and people cannot. Someone hurt you, and not a stranger. That is what makes it unbearable. It was someone who ate at your table, someone you defended when others talked, someone whose secrets you kept, someone you helped when helping cost you something. And they turned in a way that was calculated, and worse than the betrayal itself is the fact that they seem fine. They moved on, they are laughing, they are blessed, apparently, and you are the one still carrying the wound. And so a very reasonable sounding voice arrives and says, harden, never again, trust no one, give no one access, become someone who cannot be hurt, chosen one, listen to me with everything in you. Bitterness is not protection. Bitterness is a slow poison that you drink expecting somebody else to die. It does not punish them. It follows you into your future. It sits down in the new house. It shows up in the new relationship. It infects the new opportunity. It will take the very blessing you have been praying for and turn it sour in your hands, because a bitter person cannot enjoy anything. They are always waiting for it to be taken. And there is something else you must know, and I say it with tenderness because I know it is hard. Unforgiveness is a leash. As long as you are holding that offense, that person still has a room in your mind, rent-free, with the lights on. Every time you replay what they did, you are giving them another hour of your one life. Releasing them is not saying it was okay. It was not okay. Releasing them is saying, you do not get to come with me into what is next. Look at Joseph again, because the same man who passed the scarcity test faced the betrayal test at the highest level. Years later, his brothers stood in front of him, starving, powerless, and he had absolute authority. One word from him and they would have been erased. He had the motive, he had the means, and by every human standard he had the right. And what did he do? He wept, and he fed them, and he said, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Do you understand what he was demonstrating? He was demonstrating that he had passed the final exam. He was demonstrating that he could hold power without using it to settle scores. And a person who can hold power without abusing it is a person heaven can trust with more. That is the test in front of you. Not, did they hurt you? They did. The test is, will you become like them, or will you become like the thing you prayed for? And I want to tell you something that will encourage you, because you have wondered about this. You have wondered whether letting it go means they get away with it. Chosen one, nobody gets away with anything. Justice is not your job. Vindication is not your assignment. Yours is to keep your heart clean and keep walking. The one who sees in secret keeps far better records than you do, and he is a far better defender than you will ever be. Every single time you have wanted to defend yourself and stayed silent, heaven recorded it. Every time you could have exposed someone and covered them instead, heaven recorded it. And the day is coming, sooner than you think, when what was done in the dark against you will be answered in the light, publicly, and you will not have had to lift a finger. Release them. Not for them, for the version of you standing on the other side of this door. The third test is the test of fatigue, when exhaustion tempts you to abandon the faith itself. This is the most dangerous of the three, and it is the one nobody warns you about. The first two come with drama. There is a villain, there is a moment. You can point at them. But the third one arrives quietly, wearing slippers, sitting down beside you at the end of an ordinary Tuesday. It does not tell you God is not real. It tells you God is not for you. It does not say prayer does not work. It says prayer does not work for you. It does not attack your theology. It attacks your stamina. The voice of fatigue says, you have done this for years. You have believed, you have given, you have forgiven, you have shown up, and look around. Nothing has changed. Maybe you misheard. Maybe it was never a promise. Maybe you made the whole thing up because you needed something to hold on to. And the reason this test is so effective is because it does not require you to sin. It only requires you to stop. Hear me, chosen one. It has been said that most people do not fail because they were defeated. They fail because they were too tired to keep standing on a day when standing was all that was required. Not fighting, not winning, standing. There are days in your life whose only assignment is, do not walk away today. That is the whole assignment. Survive the day with your faith intact. Look at Elijah. This is a man who had just called fire down out of heaven in front of an entire nation. Fire. Actual fire. The greatest public victory of his ministry. An undeniable, unrepeatable, spectacular miracle. And then one threat from one woman. And this same man is running for his life into the wilderness, sitting under a tree, telling God, "It is enough. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Do you see? The collapse came after the victory. Exhaustion does not respect your resume. The greatest men and women of faith have all had a day under that tree. And watch what heaven did. God did not rebuke him. God did not lecture him. God did not say, "How dare you?" After everything I did, an angel came and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, because the journey is too much for you." Food, sleep, another touch, another meal, and then, only then, direction. Sometimes, chosen one, the most spiritual thing you can do is eat something and go to bed. Sometimes what you have been diagnosing as a faith problem is a rest problem. Sometimes the reason everything looks hopeless at 11 at night is that you are a human being with a body, and your body has limits, and heaven knows those limits far better than you do. But understand the test. The test of fatigue is not asking, "Do you feel strong?" It is asking, "Will you keep going when you do not feel anything at all?" Because the highest form of faith is not the faith that dances when the miracle arrives. It is the faith that says, in the flat, gray, unremarkable middle of nothing happening, I still believe. I do not have evidence. I do not have feelings. I have a promise. And that is enough. Now let me speak to something you have been thinking about but have not said out loud. You have been considering quitting. Not dramatically. You would never announce it. But there is a quiet negotiation happening inside of you that sounds like, maybe I should just accept that this is my life. Maybe I should stop hoping so it stops hurting. I need to talk to you about what quitting would actually cost, because you are not seeing the full invoice. Consider everything you have already invested. Count it. The years, the tears nobody saw, the offerings you gave when you could not afford to give, the nights you prayed instead of sleeping, the times you chose the right thing when the wrong thing was easier and cheaper and would have worked, the relationships you walked away from because they were pulling you off course, the version of yourself you buried so that a better one could grow, the apologies you made that you did not owe, the doors you did not walk through because you knew, somehow, they were not yours. All of that is deposited. None of it is lost. It is all sitting in an account with your name on it. But here is the thing about a race. There is no partial credit for 99% of a marathon. The medal is not given at mile 25. And the enemy of your destiny does not need you to renounce anything. He does not need you to become wicked. He only needs you to sit down at mile 25 and say, "This is far enough." If you quit now, you do not just lose what is ahead. You forfeit what is behind. Every year of the wilderness becomes wasted instead of invested. Every tear becomes a bad memory instead of a seed. Every act of integrity becomes a story about the time you were naive. But if you hold on just a little longer, every single one of those years converts. All of it becomes testimony. All of it becomes authority. All of it becomes the reason people will listen to you when you speak, because you will not be quoting theory. You will be reporting from the field. The Israelites at the edge of the Red Sea are the picture of this moment. Look at their position. Water in front of them, deep, uncrossable, endless, mountains on both sides. And behind them, the dust cloud of 600 chariots driven by the most advanced army on earth, closing fast. There was no strategy. There was no clever solution. There was no plan B. They were, by every measurable metric, finished. And what did they say? They said what you have been saying. They said, "Were there not enough graves in Egypt? Is this why you brought us out here? To die?" They were so terrified that slavery started to look good again. That is the psychology of the final test, chosen one. It makes the old bondage look like safety. And Moses said 7 words that I want you to write down. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Then God said something remarkable to Moses. He said, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to move forward." There is a moment in every deliverance where prayer must become movement, where the crying has to turn into a step. And the sea did not open when they prayed about it. The sea opened when the staff was lifted and the people started walking toward water that was still water. Understand this, the miracle was one day away. One day. If they had turned around on the shore and gone back to Egypt, they would have gone back into slavery 24 hours before the most famous deliverance in human history. Chosen one, how close do you think you are? I will tell you, closer than you have any evidence for, closer than your feelings will admit, closer than your bank statement suggests, closer than the silence implies. Let me tell you about Job, because you have quietly identified with him for a while now. Here is a man who lost everything in a single day. Wealth, gone. Livestock, gone. Servants, gone. And then his children. All of them, in one afternoon. And then his health, until he was sitting in ashes, scraping his own skin with broken pottery. And then his wife, the one person who should have held him, looked at him and said, "Curse God and die." And then, as if that were not enough, his friends showed up. And for chapter after chapter after chapter, they explained to him that this was his fault, that he must have sinned, that God does not do this to good people, so he must not be good. Do you know what Job's greatest agony was? It was not the loss. It was the silence. He kept saying it. I would go to his house if I knew where to find him. I go forward. He is not there. I go backward. I cannot perceive him. He hides himself. And yet, in the middle of that silence, this shattered man said the line that has echoed for thousands of years, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." That is the final exam answer. That is 100% on the test. Not I trust him because it is working out. Not I trust him because I understand. But I trust him even here, in the ashes, with no evidence, with no explanation, with my friends misinterpreting my life. And what happened? Everything was restored and doubled, not returned. Doubled. And here is a detail people miss. It says the Lord restored Job's fortunes when he prayed for his friends, the ones who had been accusing him. His restoration was linked to his release of offense. The betrayal test and the breakthrough were on the same page. You are in the same chapter, chosen one. And the restoration side of your story is closer than the loss side ever felt. Let me give you another one, because heaven loves witnesses. There was a widow in a town called Zarephath during a famine so severe that the ground had turned to dust. She had a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. That is all. She was outside gathering 2 sticks. 2, not a bundle. 2, because she only needed enough fire to cook one last meal for herself and her son. And then, in her own words, they would eat it and die. That is rock bottom. That is planning your last meal. And in that exact moment, a prophet walked up and asked her for it, for the last of it. First, now understand how offensive that request is in the natural. But she did it. She gave from the bottom of the barrel, and the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry until the rains returned. The miracle was hiding inside the last handful, not the first, the last, chosen one. That is where you are. You are down to the last handful of strength, the last handful of faith, the last handful of patience. And that is not a sign that the story is over. That is the exact conditions in which heaven has historically done its best work. Because a miracle that occurs when you still had options is called good fortune. A miracle that occurs when you had nothing left is called God. Let me tell you about a woman named Hannah, because some of you are carrying a longing so specific and so private that you have stopped mentioning it to anyone. Year after year, she went up to the house of God and prayed for one thing. Year after year, she went home without it. And year after year, another woman in her own household mocked her for it, deliberately, systematically, to provoke her, until she wept and could not eat. And on the day that she finally broke, the day she went into the temple and prayed so desperately that her lips moved without sound, and the priest actually accused her of being drunk, that was the day it turned. She said, "I am not drunk. I am a woman of sorrowful spirit, and I have poured out my soul before the Lord." And scripture says something beautiful. She went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. Before the answer came, she got her joy back on the strength of the release alone. Then the promise came, and the child she waited so long for became one of the greatest prophets in Israel's history. Some things take long because what is coming is not ordinary. If it were ordinary, it would have already arrived. Do you hear what I am telling you? The length of the delay is often information about the size of the assignment. You have been asking, why is it taking so long for me when it seems easy for everybody else? And the answer that heaven gives is not the answer you want, but it is the truth, because you were not made for the ordinary version, because ordinary things can be given to unformed people. What is being prepared for you requires that you become someone first. Now, I want to speak very practically, because a test you cannot see is a test you cannot pass. And I said I would show you exactly how to walk through this final stretch. The first thing you must do is guard your mouth. In this last season, your words are load-bearing. When Israel stood at the border of the Promised Land the first time, 12 spies went in. 10 came back and said, "We are grasshoppers. We cannot take it." 2 came back and said, "We are well able." And what happened? God said, "As you have spoken in my ears, so I will do to you." Those who said they would die in the wilderness died in the wilderness. Those who said they could take it, took it. 40 years later, Caleb, at 85 years old, was still saying, "Give me this mountain," and he got it. Your mouth is a steering wheel. In this final stretch, stop rehearsing the problem. Stop narrating your defeat to everyone who asks how you are. Stop describing your future in the language of your disappointment. There is a difference between honesty and agreement. You can say, "This is hard," without saying, "This is over." The second thing you must do is protect your circle. Not everyone can walk with you through the last mile. When Jesus went to raise Jairus' daughter, the house was full of people wailing and mourning, and he put them out, all of them. He would not perform the miracle in a room full of unbelief. He took only the parents and 3 disciples, and then he spoke life. Some of you are trying to birth a breakthrough in a room full of mourners. Some of you keep bringing your dream to people who have never done anything but tell you the odds. Some of you are being counseled by people who have never crossed the water you are trying to cross. Put them out, not cruelly, not with a speech. Just stop giving your most fragile hope to the people who have proven they will handle it roughly. The third thing you must do is finish your integrity, even where no one is watching. This is the part that separates people in the final exam. Anybody can perform when there is an audience, but heaven is watching how you behave in the room with no cameras, how you treat the person who can do nothing for you, whether you keep the promise that nobody would notice you broke, whether you tell the truth in the moment when a lie would be easier and completely unverifiable. Every one of those private choices is a brick in the foundation of what you are about to receive, and a foundation is invisible by design. Nobody applauds a foundation, but you cannot build a tower on top of nothing. The fourth thing you must do is keep giving even in the drought. I know what that sounds like when you are counting change, but I am not only speaking of money. I am speaking of the principle that a closed hand cannot receive. Give your time, give your encouragement, give the phone call, give the forgiveness, give the benefit of the doubt, give the help you wish somebody had given you. In a famine, most people contract. The chosen ones plant. The fifth thing you must do is rest without guilt. You have been treating rest like a failure. It is not. Even the Creator rested, not from exhaustion, but as a declaration that the work was finished and good. When you rest, you are announcing to your own soul that you are not the one holding the universe together. Elijah's turnaround started with a nap and a meal. Yours may too. And the sixth thing, the most important thing, is to keep showing up in the presence of the one who called you, even when the presence feels like an empty room. There will be days in this last stretch where prayer feels like talking into a phone with no signal. Pray anyway, read anyway, worship anyway, because worship in the silence is worth 1,000 times worship in the celebration. Anybody can sing after the answer, singing before the answer. That is what shakes prisons, which brings me to Paul and Silas. 2 men, beaten with rods until their backs were open, thrown into the innermost cell of a prison, feet locked in stocks. They had been doing the right thing. They had been serving. This was not the consequence of foolishness. This was the cost of obedience. And there is a particular kind of despair that comes when you suffer for doing right, because at least when you suffer for doing wrong, the world makes sense. And at midnight, the darkest hour, the hour when everything feels final, they sang. They did not sing because they felt like it. Nobody sings with an open back because they feel like it. They sang because they had decided that their circumstances did not get to write their theology. And Scripture says the other prisoners were listening. Chosen one, hear that. Somebody in a nearby cell is listening to how you handle this. Somebody is watching whether your faith is decorative or structural. Your children are watching. Your friends who do not believe are watching. Somebody who is about to give up entirely is watching you, and your endurance is going to be the reason they hold on one more week. And then the earthquake came. The foundations shook, the doors flew open, and every prisoner's chains fell off. Not just theirs, everyone's. When you break through, chosen one, you are not going to break through alone. Your deliverance has a radius. That is part of why this is taking so long. Because heaven is not just answering a prayer, heaven is setting up a chain reaction, and chain reactions require precision timing. Now let me address something that has been sitting in your chest. You have been comparing your timeline to other people's. You have watched people with half your character get twice your results. You have watched people who cut corners get promoted. You have watched people who abandoned everything you have stayed faithful to appear happy, loud, and thriving. And a bitter little question has formed. What is the point of doing it the right way? Let me answer it plainly. What is built fast without a foundation must be maintained by the same energy that built it. And that is exhausting, and it is fragile, and it collapses at the first genuine storm. You have watched some of those collapses already. You have seen the ones who were flying 5 years ago, and you no longer hear their names. What is being built in you is being built to last 3 generations. You are not being delayed. You are being reinforced. And on the day the storm comes for everyone, and it comes for everyone, you will still be standing, and people will ask you how, and you will be able to tell them about the wilderness that they thought was your punishment, and you now know was your training. There is another thing I must tell you, because it will happen soon, and I do not want it to shake you. Right before the breakthrough, there is often a moment when it gets worse, not better, worse. Look at Moses. He went to Pharaoh with a word from God. Let my people go. And what happened immediately? Pharaoh doubled the workload. He removed the straw and demanded the same number of bricks. The people who had been so glad to see Moses turned on him and said, "You have made us a stench. You have made it worse." And Moses went to God and said, essentially, "Why did you send me? Since I came, nothing has gotten better." That is the pattern. When the deliverer shows up, the oppressor panics. When your season is about to change, the resistance intensifies. Not because you are losing, but because something is being evicted and it does not want to go. Nobody fights for a house they are not being removed from. So when the pressure increases in the coming days, do not interpret it as abandonment. Interpret it as evidence. The increase in resistance is a measurement of the size of what is being released. And let me speak to the specific place where you are being pressed the hardest. Some of you are being pressed financially, and it is not a small squeeze, it is a strangle. You are choosing between necessities. You are ashamed of things you never thought you would be ashamed of. You have been calculating and recalculating, and the pressure has made you feel less than human. And worst of all, it has made you feel like maybe you are not blessed after all. Hear me. Your account balance is not your spiritual report card. The wealthiest men in Scripture had seasons of dust, and the emptiest seasons were often the doorstep of the greatest increase. You are not being punished. You are in the last stretch of a lean season that is teaching you something you will need when the increase comes. Namely, how to be the same person full that you were empty. Because most people are destroyed by increase, not by lack. Lack has never disqualified anyone. Abundance has ruined thousands. The provision that is coming to you is not a lottery. It is a pipeline. And a pipeline is being built right now, quietly, in ways you cannot see, through people you have not met yet, through doors that have not opened. And the reason it is not here yet is that the last section is still being laid. Some of you are being pressed in your body. There is a diagnosis, or there is a pain, or there is a fatigue that no one has explained to you. And every morning you wake up and remember, and the remembering is its own grief. I will not give you a shallow word, but I will tell you this. You are not defined by the report, and you are not alone in the room. The same one who formed you in secret knows every cell of the body he designed, and there is no place in this world so dark that his attention cannot reach you. Keep standing. Keep speaking life, keep receiving good care, and keep your heart soft, because a soft heart heals faster than a hard one in every dimension. Some of you are being pressed in your household. There is tension at your table. There is a child who has walked away. There is a marriage that has become a negotiation. There is a house that is quiet in the wrong way. And you have prayed, and the situation looks the same, and you have started to believe that you failed. Chosen one, hear this. Your prayers over that person are not lost, not one of them. There is not a single word you have spoken over your child that has evaporated. Those words are working in a realm you cannot audit. The prodigal came home, but he did not come home in chapter 1. He came home after the money was gone and the friends were gone and he was in the pig pen. Sometimes the answer to your prayer looks, from a distance, like the situation getting worse, when what is actually happening is that every false support is being removed, so the only direction left is home. Keep the light on, keep the door unlocked, keep praying, and do not measure the harvest before the season is over. And some of you are being pressed in your identity. You do not even know who you are anymore. You used to be confident. You used to have energy. You used to be the one people came to. And this long season has stripped so much away that you barely recognize the person in the mirror, and you are quietly grieving the version of yourself you used to be. I want to tell you something about that. The stripping is not destruction. It is excavation. What has been removed from you in this wilderness was never you. It was costume. It was a persona built to survive rooms you were never meant to live in. And when you emerge from this, you are not going to be the old you restored. You are going to be someone new and stronger and quieter and far harder to shake. Because a person who has been through the fire has nothing left to prove to anyone. Let me tell you what the other side actually looks like, because you need a picture to walk toward. On the other side of this test, you will have a peace you cannot explain to people who have never been through it. Things that used to devastate you will become inconveniences. You will stop needing to be understood. You will stop performing for people who were never going to approve of you anyway. You will look at threats that once kept you up all night, and you will feel something close to boredom, because you will have already survived worse. On the other side of this test, doors will open that no committee approved. People with resources will be moved to help you, and you will not have had to beg, because there is a kind of favor that does not come from networking. It comes from heaven, and it is not distributed based on charisma. It is distributed based on character. On the other side of this test, the people who counted you out will have to reckon with something they cannot explain. And I want to warn you about this too. You are going to have to resist the urge to gloat. Vindication is not for revenge. Vindication is a testimony when it comes. And it is coming. Carry it with grace, because how you handle your elevation will determine how long you keep it. On the other side of this test, you will finally understand the delay. There will be a moment, maybe a quiet one, in your kitchen, or in your car, or on a walk, when the whole picture assembles itself and you will see why it had to be this route, why that door closed, why that person left, why that thing failed. And you will laugh, or weep, or both, and you will say, it had to be this way. But none of that arrives if you sit down at mile 25. So let me put the test in the simplest possible terms. Heaven is asking you one question in this season, and it is not, are you strong enough? It is, will you stay yourself? Will you stay honest when dishonesty would solve it? Will you stay kind when cruelty would feel justified? Will you stay generous when hoarding would feel safer? Will you stay faithful when abandoning the whole thing would relieve the pressure? Will you stay soft when hardening would protect you? That is the exam. That is all of it. Not perfection, direction, not flawlessness. Faithfulness. And I want to release something to you right now, because some of you need permission more than instruction. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to have hard days. You are allowed to cry in the car before you walk into the building. You are allowed to not have a smile ready for people who did not earn it. Passing this test does not require you to feel positive. It requires you to not quit. Those are different things, and religion has confused them for far too long. David wrote most of the Psalms in a cave, and half of them start with a complaint. He said, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever?" That is in the sacred text. That is allowed. Bring the complaint, bring the questions, bring the anger, if that is what you have. Just bring it to the right place and do not walk away from the table. Now, hear me on the timing, because I know that is what you really want to know. You want a date. You want me to tell you the month. But a date would ruin you, because if you knew the date, you would coast until the week before. And the person who arrives at the promise coasting is not the person who can hold it. The formation happens in the not knowing. The muscle is built in the uncertainty. What I will tell you is this: it is not far. The season you are in has an expiration date, and you are much closer to it than to the beginning. Look at how long you have already endured. If you had known at the start that it would be this long, you would have said you could not do it. And yet here you are, still standing, still praying, still listening to a message about not giving up, which is itself the evidence that you have not given up. The very fact that you are still here, still hoping enough to press play on this, means the fire in you has not gone out. That flame is small right now, but heaven does not extinguish smoking flax. He does not break bruised reeds. He guards small flames like they are the most valuable thing in the room, because they are. So here is your assignment for the coming days, and I want you to take it seriously. Do not make permanent decisions in temporary exhaustion. Do not send the message you will regret. Do not sign the agreement that requires you to become someone else. Do not walk away from the assignment on the day you feel the weakest. Give yourself a rule: no major decision on a low day. Wait 48 hours. Sleep. Eat. Pray. Then decide. Speak one sentence over your life every morning before you touch your phone. Say it out loud. I am not quitting in the last mile. Find one person. One who will not laugh at your hope, and tell them the truth about where you are. Isolation is the enemy's favorite room. He does his best work in people who have stopped telling anyone how they are really doing. Do the next right thing, and only the next one. Not the whole staircase, the next step. Israel did not cross the whole wilderness in a day. They packed the tent and walked and pitched the tent and did it again. Faithfulness is boring on a daily basis and spectacular over a decade. And finally, hold your integrity with both hands. It is the only thing in this test that you actually control, and it is the one thing that heaven is grading. Let me leave you with one more picture, and then I will let you go. Imagine that everything you have prayed for is already built, not being planned, built, finished, standing. The door has a name on it, and the name is yours. The room is furnished. The provision is stocked. The people who will love and support you are already alive, already breathing, already moving toward the intersection where your lives will meet. It is all there. And between you and it is one thing: a stretch of road that requires endurance. Not brilliance, not luck, not connections. Endurance. That is the final test. That is what stands between you and everything. And the only way to fail it is to stop walking. So do not stop. Let me bring it home, chosen one. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. The land was always ready. The wilderness was making you ready for it. The hardest part came at the end, because that is where character is finalized, not because heaven abandoned you. There are 3 tests in front of you. Scarcity will offer you a compromise. Refuse it, because integrity is the currency the next level runs on. Betrayal will offer you bitterness. Release it, because you cannot carry a grudge and a blessing in the same hand. Fatigue will offer you the exit. Ignore it. Rest properly. Eat something. Sleep. And get back up, because standing still counts as obedience on the days when standing is all you have. Remember that Job's restoration came after the silence and the accusations. Remember that the widow's miracle was hiding in the last handful. Remember that Israel's sea opened after the panic, not before. Remember that Paul and Silas sang at midnight and the doors did not open until they did. And remember that the person who quits at mile 25 forfeits every mile behind them, while the one who takes one more step converts every tear into testimony. You have already survived 100% of the days you thought would end you. That is not a coincidence. That is a track record. So here is my final question to you, and I want you to actually answer it, not just hear it. If you knew, with absolute certainty, that your breakthrough was only 30 days away, how would you carry yourself tomorrow morning? What would you stop tolerating? What would you start doing? What would you refuse to say about yourself? Now go and live like that, because that is closer to the truth than the story your fear has been telling you. If you have not already, Comment 777 below to seal your agreement that you will not quit in the final mile, and tell me in the comments what you are believing for, because there are people in this comment section who will stand with you tonight. If this message met you where you are, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so the next word reaches you at the exact hour you need it. And if these messages have carried you through hard nights and you would like to help keep them going, you can support the channel with a tip using the link in the pinned comment. It is never required, only appreciated, and it helps these words reach the next person sitting in their car at midnight wondering if anyone sees them. You are seen, you are known, you are almost there. Hold on, chosen one, hold on.